This video demonstrates 3 ways to clean your chain. The one you choose will depend on the time you have available to you, how dirty your chain is, what made it dirty in the first place, and your purpose in cleaning it. Feel free to skip through this video as necessary to find the cleaning method that will work best for you. The first one we'll look at is a fast, easy one, great for right before a ride on a chain that's too dirty for lube, or right after a ride if you're in a hurry but want to make sure your bike is ready to go the next time you are. You'll need Finish Line's Speed Clean Speed Degreaser, a large rag to wipe off dissolved dirt, and, if you're not going to ride right away, Finish Line's Dry Teflon Lube to prevent flash rust from forming on your chain before your next ride. If you feel like it, you can also throw in a pair of gloves to keep your hands clean. With your chain in the smaller middle chainring and one of the middle cogs, locate the seat stay and wheel dropouts on the rear of your frame and brace the can up against them. This will hold the can steady and place the hose as close as possible to the chain to make full use of Speed Clean's powerful spray and reduce splashing on the stays and rim. Next, spray your chain while turning the crank backwards. Even on a dirty chain like this, it usually takes less than 10 turns of the crank to break down the grime and blow it out of the inside of the chain to the outside, where it can be wiped off. Pick up your rag and grip your chain while turning your crank backwards for a couple of turns. Then lift up the rag and find a clean spot so that you're not running the chain through the dirt you just removed. Repeat the process until only a minimum of dirt appears in the rag. You can wipe above the chainstay or below it where there's more room and you can pull down on the chain for higher tension. Lube your chain after cleaning it to prevent flash rust from forming. Finish Line's Dry Teflon Lube is a good choice for this because it contains anti-rust additives and works well with almost every other kind of lube that you might apply later. Because Speed Clean dries instantly, you can apply this or any other lube right away. Here's a review of the pros, cons, and possible applications of this method. If you'd like, pause the video and read through it before we continue. The second method we'll look at takes a bit more time but can be used to clean the entire drivetrain, including the chain, chainrings, cogset, and derailleur pulleys. It also works well on single-speed bikes like fixed gears, cruisers, and BMX bikes, as well as bikes with internal hub gearing. It's great when the dirt on the chain consists mostly of large particles like sand that can't be removed by a rag. You'll need Finish Line's Grunge Brush, Finish Line's biodegradable multi-degreaser, which unlike citrus degreasers won't harm plastic and rubber, a large can to pour the degreaser into, a rag, and if you're not going to ride right away, a versatile lube, like Finish Line Dry Teflon Lube. You might also want to throw in a pair of gloves to keep your hands clean. The Grunge Brush has 2 ends. The head contains 2 side blocks of medium-length stiff bristles and a center block of short stiff bristles, all of which can be easily removed. The tail contains 1 block of longer, more flexible bristles, which is also removable, and which can be replaced with shorter, stiffer blocks for more aggressive cleaning. To clean your chain with the Grunge Brush, place it headfirst into your can, then pour enough multi-degreaser into the can to cover the head. When the brush blocks are wet, push the head of the Grunge Brush down onto your chain below the chainstay, while holding your crank with your other hand to steady it. Turn your crank backwards about 10 times, depending on how dirty your chain is, then pull down on the handle of the Grunge Brush so that the brush block that was on top of the chain is now on the side facing you, and turn the crank another 10 times. This ensures that all sides of the chain are fully cleaned. To remove the Grunge Brush from your chain, pull the handle back up so that the head is in its original position, then hold down your chain on either side of the Grunge Brush with one hand and pull the head off with the other. Wipe your chain down with a rag as necessary, and if you're not going to ride right away, make sure your chain is dry and free of degreaser, then spray it down with Dry Teflon Lube. The head of the Grunge Brush can also be used to clean chainrings, which are normally very hard to clean without removing the crank. Dip the head into multi-degreaser, then push it firmly onto your outer chainring. Rotate the crank backwards until you hit the crank arm, then forwards until you hit it again from the other side. Keep turning it backwards and forwards until all the grime has been removed from your chainring. Use the long brush on the tail of the Grunge Brush to reach into places that don't fit into the head, like under the crank arm and around the chainring bolts. Finally, wipe the residue off with your rag. You can use the Grunge Brush to clean your inner chainrings as well, but first you'll need to drop the chain. Shift into your smallest chainring and smallest cog, then push the bottom of the derailleur pulley cage forward with your thumb until the chain is slack. Keeping pressure on the cage with your thumb, lift the chain off of your inner chainring and let it rest on the bottom bracket shell. Once the chain is off, get under the bike or turn it upside down. Dip the tail end of the grunge brush in multi-degreaser, place it on your chainring, and turn the crank, ideally using the left crank arm. Remember to clean both sides of the ring. If it has really stubborn grime stuck to it, replace the long flexible brush block with a shorter, stiffer one, like we showed earlier. When it's clean, wipe off any dirty degreaser and residue with your rag. One time you won't want to replace the long brush block with a shorter, stiffer one is when you're cleaning the cog set. Dip the tail of your grunge brush into multi-degreaser, rest it on your cog set, and turn the crank backwards. The long, flexible bristles will reach into your cog set to clean the teeth as well as the spaces between the cogs. Move up and down your cog set until all of the cogs are clean, and when you're done, don't forget to shift the chain into another cog, so that you can clean the one that was covered by the chain. While you're working on the rear of the bike, it makes sense to clean your derailleur pulleys as well, beginning with the lower pulley. Dip the head of the grunge brush into multi-degreaser, then push it onto the pulley like you push it onto your outer chainring. Turn the crank backwards and the grunge brush will strip the grime off of the pulley. The top pulley is a bit trickier because you need to shift the derailleur so that the grunge brush will fit between it and the wheel without banging into the spokes. However, once you've done that, all you need to do is repeat the process you used to clean the lower pulley. This review of the pros, cons, and possible applications of this method includes a couple of things we didn't mention in the video. If you'd like, you can pause the video and read through it before we continue. The final method we'll go over is a bit costlier than the first two, but it's the easiest, the fastest, and the most thorough, and best of all, it's practically mess-free. It removes grease, grime, sand, and dirt equally well, and it even removes the abrasive metal shavings that rub off of the chain rollers and pins during riding. You'll need Finish Line's shop quality chain cleaner, Finish Line's multi-degreaser, which is biodegradable and safe on plastic and rubber, a large can to pour dirty degreaser into, a rag, and if you're not going to ride right away, Finish Line dry Teflon lube. If you're really obsessive, you can throw in a pair of gloves as well. Using your chain cleaner is as easy as it gets. First, pull back the spring clip and remove the lid, noting the fill line at the base of the chain cleaner. Pour degreaser into the body up to the fill line. It doesn't take much, so pour slowly. Overfilling might lead to degreaser dripping out of the chain cleaner during use. Then, shift your chain into the smaller middle chainring and one of the middle cogs. With the lid still off, use one hand to hold your chain cleaner under your chain, and use the other to place the lid over the chain and push it down into the body of the chain cleaner. Flip up the spring clip to secure the lid. Once the chain cleaner is locked on, grasp it firmly with one hand and turn the crank backwards with the other. The brushes, side scrubbers, and degreaser will do all the work, and the shape of the body will ensure that the chain is kept at the correct tension and will prevent spilling. When your chain is clean, flip down the spring clip, pull the body down and away from the chain, and slowly remove the lid so as to prevent dripping. Wipe your chain down with a rag to remove dirty degreaser and dry the chain out. Once it's dry and free of degreaser, apply lube, even if you're not going to ride right away. As we've already mentioned, Finish Line's versatile dry Teflon lube is a good choice because you can always apply another lube on top of it later, if you decide to do so. Remove dirty degreaser from the chain cleaner by pouring it into your can and then disposing of it as you see fit. It's a good idea to rinse out your chain cleaner with hot water after every few uses. When you do this, you may well notice metal shavings that were pulled out of the cleaning solution by the magnet at the base of the chain cleaner. It's a proprietary feature and really makes a difference when it comes to reducing wear on the chain. To remove these shavings, turn your chain cleaner upside down, then push hard on the magnet to slide it out of its slot. This will release the metal shavings, which you can then rinse out of the body with water. When they're all gone, slide the magnet back into its slot, pushing hard to make sure that it's fully seated. There are many advantages to using a chain cleaner, the most significant of which are highlighted here. If you'd like, take a moment to pause the video and read through it before we conclude.